everybody, thank you so much for joining me today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. So we're back at it again. Foregate Whiskey Company, tried and true. These guys are absolutely killing it these days. They're up to batch 14, which is going to be their Old Sherry Pike. So Foregate, for me, no bones about it. One of my favorite companies out there, doing some fantastic things with whiskeys, blends, finishings, all of those types of things. So what exactly is batch 14? Batch 14 is going to be their Old Sherry Pike. There were 1,757 bottles in this batch. Comes in at 118.9 proof or 59.45% ABV. So what this is this is going to be a blend of two different mash bills. So first is going to be, again, it's going to be between a 12-year and 6-year bourbons. First, the 12-year mash bill, 74% corn, 18% rye, 8% malted barley. The 6-year is going to be 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. So those two mash bills combined, finished in Oloroso Sherry barrels. Actually, they're Spanish Oloroso barrels. So it is non-age stated. It was aged in the Oloroso barrels for 88 days. MSRP on this, pretty standard for Foregate, right around that $200 price point. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll kind of get into the review. Color-wise, as you can see, the Oloroso, the sherry influence, definitely fairly heavy on that really nice, rich kind of mahogany type of color on that. Move the whiskey around in the glass a little bit. Really nice oils. Love to see that. Hopefully that translates over to more flavor on the palate. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the nose. Ooh, man, so rich, deep caramels right away. That sweet oak. Nice butterscotch note on that. Actually, some more toffee notes. This is something that's not something I always pick up, but nice toffee note. Heavy fruits. Now again, here's probably where the Oloroso impact is going to be. There's just that nice kind of rich, dark, heavy fruit aspect to it. And I'd say the fruit probably more along the lines of like a raspberry, some strawberry notes. Fairly distinct, to be honest. Like a nice unsweetened chocolate. And again, I've had this open now or in the glass for about 15 minutes prior to doing the review. So I wanted to let this thing open up, breathe a little bit. These are the types of whiskeys that you definitely need to, in order to fully enjoy them, my thought is just let it open up. Pour it in a glass, walk away for 10 or 15 minutes, let it open up, come back to it. Hopefully it'll start to kind of shine and really kind of present itself at that point. Yeah, definitely that sherry influence, that fruity aspect is there. A lot of raspberry, a lot of strawberry. That nice vanilla buttercream. Maybe like a vanilla cake. Even more of like a red apple actually on that as well. And the red apple part of it is kind of where you get a little bit of the sweetness from the actual inner part of the apple and a little bit of that tartness from the skin of the red apple. Definitely a little bit of cinnamon that's there. Really nice nose. I mean, there's a little bit of that kind of underlying baking spice that's there as well. Really nice nose on that so far. I think the transition of these hopefully will be on the palate and start to really shine. So looking forward to getting into this one. So, all right, let's take a look. Cheers. That sherry influence, even though it's been finished in those barrels for only upwards of 88 days, the influence is definitely there. It's not overdone by any means, but for me, there's this immediately, this sweet like pipe tobacco note. it's almost like a stewed or like a cooked fruit aspect to it, where maybe you would like bake some fruits and then put that like kind of in a pie. There's a little bit of a pie crust note on it as well. I love the sweet tobacco influence. There's maybe even like a touch of leather. It's not overly dry by any means, not like you get with some finished Oloroso or sherry finished whiskeys. It can kind of dry out a little bit on you. Nice oak presence that's there. Again, not overly dry. Yeah, that stewed or baked fruit, pie crust. Nice oak presence to it. The sherry influence as it sits on the palate definitely begins to kind of come forward a little bit. It shines. So as a dark fruit aspect, it's more along the lines, if you've had that sherry influence, it is there. I think as it kind of just sits on the palate and kind of translates over to a little bit of the finish, that sherry aspect is just kind of lingering. It's there. It's not dominant by any means, but it definitely lets you know that there is that sherry influence to it. So very nice. I mean, this is where the finishing aspect and it being monitored can be very crucial or critical when you're finishing these bourbons. Is you never want to lose sight of the quality of the underlying bourbon, which is there. You don't want that secondary barreling to really overshadow that, and they've done a really nice job with blending those two or balancing those two out. Definitely still some more of that like unsweetened chocolate, maybe even some coffee notes that are there, some toffee. Again, those rich caramels, the vanillas. So I think this is where a little bit of that, the underlying kind of aged bourbon in terms of the complexity part of it is shining. And then as it kind of sits on the palate, this is where the Oloroso part kind of takes over or makes itself known, that there's a really nice balance. The oak on this is fantastic. Not over oak by any means. There's that sweet, rich oak that's there. Probably has a lot to do with the 12-year bourbon that's in there, that it's allowing some of the complexity of those complex flavors that you start to pull out in a little bit of more of an aged bourbon starts to really kind of shine. So I would definitely encourage you that if you are going to sip on this, or when you're sipping on it, to just kind of take your time. I think it'll really start to evolve and really show or shine in a lot of different areas. This will be one that I think will really start to kind of give you some different flavors the longer you kind of begin to kind of sip on that one. Didn't even touch on the mouthfeel. Very oily. Coats the mouth really well. Finish is nice and long. And again, the balance. This is one of the things that I love, when you can start to pull out all of these different profiles, you know, specifically kind of in their own place. I think this is where you've got the complexity, like I said before, of the bourbons that are there, in addition to the finishing aspect from those Oloroso barrels, that it's really starting to shine. I mean, I think it's a great whiskey, and one that probably, I think, just needs to be given some time. You don't want to rush these. Just let it sit out, take your time with it, and I think you'll be, fully rewarded. So finish wise, it's almost everything that I described on the palate just kind of continues to linger. So it's a nice long finish. The Oloroso is present. The underlying bourbon characteristics are definitely there. So just give this one time. That's the one thing I want to kind of, make known, is that you just have to not rush this kind of whiskey. And I think if you do, take your time, it will definitely reward you. So there you have it. I hope that this helps a little bit. This was being released basically the end of August, kind of beginning of September of 2021. So these should be starting to get out to people for the most part. It'll be very interesting to hear people's feedback as to, you know, are you getting some of the same types of things that I am? You know, if so, make sure you leave a comment and in the description below. Love to hear people's feedback on all of that. So there you have it. So this is batch 14 from Foregate Whiskey Company, specifically called Old Sherry Pike. So I want to say thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. Greatly appreciate all of the support. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. In addition to the channel support, that also gets you part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, where Jason and I do several picks that we offer to our Patreon community. So if that's of interest, make sure you check the link in the description below. So again, with that, thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, it's about the journey and not the destination.